We're joined on the phone now by John Conroy. He's U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary of Sylvan Beach. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning, Andrew and Josh. How are you guys?
Great. Listen, this is a big weekend for boaters. Unfortunately, bad things can happen on the water. I think I read this week, and I'm going to mess the stat up, that says of the boating fatalities that happen in the United States, it was a number greater than 80% involve people who are not wearing a safety vest. So I would imagine that's step number one.
That's correct. That's correct. That's what we recommend. The law requires that you have a personal flotation device on for every person on board your vessel, and it needs to be readily accessible. We encourage people to wear them because with water temperatures in our area, if you go into the water, the first thing that happens is you have a gasp reflex. And people have a tendency to inhale or swallow a lot of water before they even come up for air. So it's critical that vest be worn. It's not required by law to wear it. It just has to be readily accessible. But you're absolutely right. About 83% of people who went into the water and drowned were not wearing vests.
It seems like such a simple thing, and I think it's different than wearing a seatbelt. I think it is different because, listen, when you get in the water, obviously it's not like a pool. I think people think they can, well, I'll give it my best shot.
Tread water.
Yeah, they'll tread water. It's not that easy. It's really not. And to do it for an undetermined amount of time, unfortunately, that's why we have these tragedies happening. John, can I ask you, can you pick up, I think you're on speaker, and we're getting not a great signal from you. So if you could come back on the line there. Tell us other things that people need to be mindful of and to be cautious about to avoid accidents this weekend and any time throughout the summer.
Well, the most important thing after having that life jacket on board and preferably being worn, to your point, once you're in the water, it's not easy to put it on, and people can Google some videos with regard to that and see how people struggle when they throw a jacket into the water with somebody in the water and have them try to get into it. It just doesn't work. The second thing that we recommend is, and it would cover most of these points, is to take a safe boating course if you haven't already taken one. There's several of them available in June throughout central New York. Right now, if you go on to cgaux.org, that's Coast Guard Auxiliary, cgaux.org, you can go in and just on the right-hand side of the page, just tap on Take a Safe Boating Class, and you'll have all of the local area units that are offering courses at this time. This covers a lot of the information we'll talk about this morning. The other thing is we recommend that people have a vessel safety exam every year. I'm a vessel examiner, and some of the things that you see are mind-blowing. When people go out on the water, I actually inspected a vessel for a guy who handed me a fire extinguisher from like 1966.
Wow.
And it hadn't been checked in about, almost 50 years, because this was a couple of years ago. It had mud wasp nest in it, and, that was never going to work. And he was getting ready to take his grandchildren out on the boat. So having that vessel safety exam will go through a lot of the key points on safety equipment that are required.
So, John, I've got a question for you. I've heard this, and I've heard it from several people, and I'm not an expert in any stretch of the imagination, so correct me if I'm wrong. Oneida Lake, unfortunately, has had a history of being quite treacherous, and they say it's because it's one of the more shallow lakes. Why is that? Is there any truth to that? And am I on track there?
Well, yeah. I mean, Oneida Lake has a fetch, which is the way the wind blows. It blows from west to east. So if you go on Oneida Lake in the morning, it's relatively calm out there. But around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, from the heating of the earth, the winds start to pick up. Oneida Lake is very shallow, especially if you get down around buoy 113. It's Messenger Shoal. The water is literally, you can go from 15, 20 feet to 1 to 2 feet of water. So that's extremely dangerous. If you're going past that area in high speed and you're not familiar with the area, bad things happen. In fact, a boat actually hit that shallow area a couple of years ago, and 4 people were thrown from the boat. There were 3 fatalities.
Oh, my gosh.
So, that's a big issue on Oneida Lake.
So take close attention to, of course, similar to the roadway, no drinking, seatbelts, life jackets, but also speed. You have to be mindful of your speed while on the lake.
Well, absolutely. I mean, speed is one of the top 5 primary contributing factors in accidents. Alcohol is a huge factor. About 1/3 of fatalities involved alcohol, and as well people not wearing their jackets. So we definitely advise never boat under the influence. In the instance I just gave you, there was some word out that people had just visited a bar and had gone out late at night, not had the proper equipment on board, came into that shallow area, and several people got ejected from the boat. So those are all contributing factors.
All right. And then there isn't a water curfew, right? Can you take your boat out anytime at night?
You can.
Okay.
You need to make sure that you have navigation lights. There's an exception, that's personal watercraft. Personal watercraft are not allowed to operate after sunset. They don't have navigation lights on them, so they are prohibited. And
That's kayak, just for people who aren't familiar, that's kayak, canoe, rowboat, things like that.
Yeah, so you can go out in those, although we advise that you take a light with you, some type of white light where you can be seen. We've seen a number of boats out, canoes and kayaks at night where we've been out on patrol, particularly on Oneida Lake, where people are out paddling. They have no light on board the vessel, and we've seen several people almost get run over from boats. They just can't be seen until they're right on top of them.
All right.
Well, John, thank you for your service. First of all, it's probably not an easy job sometimes to go out there and have to deal with situations like that, especially when there's tragedy involved. So thanks for what you do, and thanks for coming on this morning.
Well, you're very welcome, guys. Thanks for having me on for National Safe Boating Week. We really appreciate the exposure.
All right. Stay safe out there. John Conway, U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary of Sylvan Beach. And, of course, my message to stay safe is anyone who plans on being out on a boat this weekend, you got to wear the life jacket. It really could save your life.